Keith Lethbridge is up next.
His father lay buried at Ivanhoe Station. His mother was ancient and grey. His life was a turmoil of work and temptation to follow his ancestors' way. I met him one year when we mustered together from the Ord to the Boab camp. He dressed like a cowboy, whatever the weather, a Kimberley saddle tramp. He was hardened and wiry, all sinew and gristle, adapted to work in the heat. He owned a black mongrel that came to his whistle and camped through the night at his feet. He strummed a guitar that was battered and rusty beside the old kerosene lamp, and he sang like a tortured, asthmatic Slim Dusty, that Kimberley saddle tramp. He earned a few bob, but he saved not a penny. His wages sank down like a stone. His heart was too big, his relations too many to carry that burden alone. He often declared that his only ambition was leading a basketball team, but he wasn't cut out for stiff competition, and nobody shared his dream. Now the wind blows in through the shutters and the nights are cold and damp. I dream, and then I'm riding again with that Kimberley saddle tramp. He ran with a gal you'd be happy to throttle. She blustered and cheated and lied. In bitter frustration, he took to the bottle to cover his wounded pride. The scuttlebutt reckoned he'd never recover. But after a year away, he rode into camp with that same sweet lover, determined to earn his pay. So where is he now, that reckless young ringer? Still travelling safe and sound, still earning his name as a campfire singer, or 6 foot under the ground? It's a long way back to Ivanhoe Station where Kimberley cattle graze, but a man can't stop his imagination reliving those daring days where the tracks are rough and the dampers gritty and Rafferty's rules apply, 1,000 miles from the nearest city, caressed by a northern sky. And now, as I roll out my swag to retire, my misty old eyes grow damp to think of those yarns round a flickering fire with that Kimberley saddle tramp, and the wind blows in through the shutters and the nights are cold and damp. I dream, and then I'm riding again with that Kimberley saddle tramp. Have a nice day, she recited. Thank you, sir. Have a nice day. It might have been more entertaining if she hadn't offloaded me pay. The wife and the kids won't be laughing, but at least I'll have someone to blame, and while I come a cropper, the next happy shopper is copping a dose of the same. Did you notice the price of tomatoes? They're almost like nuggets of gold. A chook costs the same as an emu. I wonder how many get sold. The eggs come in king size or jumbo with fabulous prices to match. But when you're departing, the goods in the carton are something the pigeon might hatch. The biscuits are gift wrapped, like presents. Now, don't tell me that's not a waste. It's no consolation that cardboard has a vastly superior taste. The cereal's smothered in sugar, the cordial's stuck to the tray. And just to repel me, she's happy to tell me to cough up and have a nice day. Bananas are blackened and soggy. The apples are rock hard and green. The lettuce is limp and depressing. The carrots are almost obscene. No jury would ever convict me for quietly putting away the next idiotic, gum-chewing, robotic, dim-witted, persistent, half-baked shop assistant that tells me to have a nice day. Especially. But the one thing, when you go for a job, it's hard to overcome because nobody cares about us blokes who've got a lousy attitude. You know? And yet we didn't want to, hey. So we got the choice, we can either become politicians, I suppose. But it's the only job where, you know, the kindest thing people say about politicians is, gee, mate, you don't look much like it, you don't sound much like a politician. That is the kindest compliment they ever get. But anyway, here's a little yarn. It's got a chorus, and I'm going to... the chorus is... I've got a bit of music here. Okay, here we go. When I was a lad, it was soon agreed I was the least likely to succeed, though I never set out to besmirch the family name. I tried real hard, but it was understood I'd never amount to anything good, but when things went wrong, I was always there to blame. It didn't take long for me to realise I was Sandy Blight in society's eyes, so I hang round to create a family feud. So I snatched me rent just as soon as I could, and I made a living by chopping wood, and I chopped my way to a lousy attitude. Yes, friends, I got a lousy attitude. I'm hopeless, helpless, inefficient, I'm reckless, rowdy, rough and rude. Well, I've had more fights than you've had dinners, and I've backed more losers than you've picked winners, and I put it all down to a lousy attitude. Well, I got into fights wherever I went, so I found my way to Jimmy Sharman's tent. Thought I'd make a living by employing my boxing skills. Although I was built like a skeleton weed, I had a drive and ambition to succeed, and like a junkyard dog, I knew I was born to kill. Old Jimmy could see I was a hopeless bet. I was 10.5 stone, wringing wet, and I had a technique that was best described as crude. But I begged old Jimmy just to try me out, and after I drew my initial bout, he said, I like you, son, you got a lousy attitude. Yes, friends, I got a lousy attitude. I'm hopeless, helpless, inefficient, I'm reckless, rowdy, rough and rude. Well, I've had more fights than you've had dinners, and I've backed more losers than you've picked winners, and I put it all down to a lousy attitude. Well, the years went by and I came to thinking, better give up fighting and take up drinking. Well, I got to admit I'd slowed down just a smidgen. So I roamed the country as a hopeless drunk. I ate like a rabbit and smelt like a skunk. And then one day I ran into a politician. He said, my friend, you're the type we need if this great country's going to succeed. Just sign on the dotted line while you're in the mood. And as my brand new friend suspected, I had the right stuff to get elected. That's a thieving nature and a lousy attitude. Well, I made my fortune as a politician without arousing too much suspicion. Well, it's easy pickings and the perks are worth a mention. You just cool your heels for a few short years till your credibility disappears and you find yourself sitting on a big fat pension. I live in high on the hogs and acquired skill, but if I don't do it, someone else will, so I guess I'll have to face it with fortitude. But looking back over many a year, one lesson stands out loud and clear. You got to learn to develop a lousy attitude. Last chorus, everybody. Oh, friends, I've got a lousy attitude. I'm hopeless, helpless, inefficient. I'm reckless, rowdy, rough and rude. Well, I've had more fights than you've had dinners, and I've backed more losers than you've picked winners, and I've put it all down to a lousy attitude. So help me, brothers. I thank the Lord for a lousy attitude. Oh, yeah. Thank you, folks.